This meeting is being recorded.
Miss Shayla Gifford, I'm so excited that we're doing this. So it was probably about 3 weeks ago. I texted you. I was like, can we share your story? Because now you spend so much time pouring into everybody else that I don't even know if a lot of originators who follow you have any idea about the business that you built, or and the fact that you did it in a time that was completely unknown to do hundreds of loans a year. I mean, and you live in Reno, Nevada, which is not New York City. I didn't even know there was that many people to give mortgages to in Reno, Nevada. So thank you for doing this with me today. What's really unique about Shayla is she is, to me at least, she's exactly 10 years older than me. I'm 33, you're 43, right?
Yep.
So she's got had kids around the same age that I'm having kids. I'm due in the next couple of weeks, and I've got a little one at home. And really, in 10 years, took her business and just sprinted with it. And it wasn't a long, slow growth over 25 years. And then she happened to do 100 million during COVID. You were putting up insane numbers long before COVID. And if anything, almost took a step back during COVID and repositioned how you ran your whole team. So thank you for taking the time to do this. My goal today is really to just dig into how you built it, what you would do different, what systems you followed. So often we get to hear these big producers speak, but they speak on like how they build their team and how they run their team meeting. And a lot of us loan officers are like, I don't have anyone to have a team meeting with. I just need to find some loans. And so you can really speak to that portion of it. So thank you for doing this.
I'm so excited. I mean, you challenged me to really go back. The one thing I didn't do, but we could play with it live, is even try to go back to my calendar, um, and see like what the hell was I doing 10 years ago? Because I think we all get 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I definitely have a before and after story, Allison.
Yeah.
I had a clear doing it on my own, trying to figure it out, hustling and grinding and being stressed out and in fear mode all the time that I was going to lose my next deal or lose my next realtor or be found out because I was young, to actually having a mentor, having a coach, having a plan. And my business just blew up from that point forward. So thank you for letting me to go back in time to prepare for this call, and to just hopefully help everybody else today with where they're at and wherever they want to grow to.
Yeah. So I'm at Gills now with Shayla, but rewind. I don't even know if you know this full story. So when I was in college, I worked for another loan officer as a dialer on her team, and you were in a coaching program called the Core Training. You were a coach there, and if you were in this coaching program, you sent your team to team training every single year. So I'm in college. It was very exciting to get to go on a work trip, get to go on an airplane. I had to wear work clothes. But that was a big deal. And I go to this conference. I was in college. I wanted to go to law school. And I go to this conference probably partway, like in the spring of my junior year of college. And I'm sitting in a room, and Shayla is teaching dialers how to be dialers. There's probably 200 people in this room. But what stood out to me is that you weren't a 50-some-year-old dude doing mortgages. You got on stage and you said you dropped out of college. You just had made like $2 million+ that year, and I literally left that conference and I told my mom that I wasn't going to go to law school and I was going to do mortgages instead. I'm like, I saw this girl on stage and she was dynamic and she seemed happy and she's having fun with it. And it's not rocket science. Like, I could do this too. Fast forward, it's not like I dropped out of college. I loved college. I loved all the parties and all the fun. I took full advantage, but I didn't go to law school. I went into mortgages. Here I am. But I followed your career. Any mortgage coach interview you did, any podcast, I'd always listen and take tidbits because you did it so much differently than everyone else was doing it. And with so much more authenticity and so much more confidence and so much just more of you in everything that you did, and it always just stood out to me. And it was every script you give is always relatable. I could hear it and go, yep, I could go say that tomorrow, and that wouldn't feel cringy or douchey, for lack of a better word, to me, right? I could just copy it and do it. Fast forward, it was a year and a half ago, and we were at our lake house. We had people there, and all of a sudden I'm getting this phone call from Reno, Nevada. And I looked at my husband, I go, I think this woman is called this Shayla woman from Reno is calling me. I don't know anyone else who lives in Reno. He's like, I think it's probably a telemarketer. Don't answer the phone. Why would she doesn't know who you are? Why would she be calling you? I'm like, yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know either. So I didn't answer. And then 2 seconds later, I got a video text and it was you saying, hey, I just don't want you to think I'm some crazy person. I follow you on social, blah, blah, blah. I'd love to connect. I love what you're doing. And it was that next week we ended up connecting on the phone and talked for over an hour. And I was just blown away. I'm like, she's the real deal. This isn't smoke and mirrors. What you see is what you get. She's putting in the work, but now she's pivoting what her focus is. And it's really to pour into other producers. And right then and there, I was like, this is something I think I need to be a part of. And at the time I was very pregnant then as well. And my husband's like, can we not with this right now? Like, do we have to like, can you just chill out for a second? She just called you. And then it was at the end of that year where I said, okay, nope, I really want to do this. Let's make a move to Guild. And since being here, I know your volume numbers and I watched your career for a long time, but I'm realizing as other people get the gift of Shayla in their life, they don't know your numbers or your volume story. So thank you for doing this because I can't wait to dig into all of the things. Selfishly, this helps me a ton too on how you built your business. So first off, I asked you to pull some of your historic numbers year over year. Could you share your screen, Shayla, and just show us some of that?
Well, I think first it's important for everybody to know your numbers. And you didn't know I was going to flip this on you, but I'm just pulling you up in Salesforce in 5 seconds because it's really cool that I called you. I don't even remember having the intention to call you, but I think I'd gotten to a place as a leader where I'd literally just gone through 5 rounds of layoffs. I had pulled apart my company and had to lay off people who had been with me for 8 years and 10 years. And, I really pour my whole mind, body, and soul into this business and I love it and I take it personally. And so I was at a place where I was like, okay, I can't pull this apart anymore. I refuse to. I want to work in a beautiful office. I want to have a great marketing. I want to do community events. I believe in a professional presentation. I want to have culture and energy around me. This is a sales job, really hard to do without positivity and people around me. Well, if I'm going to afford these things, then I must grow. And it was at that point that I was like, F it, I'm going to grow nationally. I'm going to go find the people who have that positivity, that energy, that are doing things. And honestly, I think I just probably kept seeing you on social media because you had this beautiful brand. I could tell you were hungry, you were hustling. And I was like, I'm just going to cold call her. And so, anyway, that's just really a really fun, story because from your perspective, I don't even know why I was calling you out of the blue, but I think you might have been my first, like, she's somebody awesome. I'll just call her. And so the fact that you like called me back 8 months later and was like, hey, can we talk about my
I
rate?
literally think I
I think
messaged. I was like, so would you, you didn't really try and recruit me. I was just like, so like, would you would you want to have a branch in Minnesota? You're like, yeah, I do. I'm like, okay, let's have a conversation.
you're like, I'm sick of losing deals. And can we look at this? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to be that person that is just so direct and honest and real with people that if I help you in the moment or I help you 10 years down the road, that you always know that I can just tell you like it is.
Yeah.
And so that was a cool call that led into like you joining. But before I share my numbers, like I'm so proud of you, Allison, and what you've done. You've
Thank you.
closed your first loan with us in February of 2024 at 300,000. Last month, you just closed $11,800,000 in volume. So look at you from 1.2 to 7.2 to 6.9, all the way up to 11.8. And you were the girl that was like, I've done 50 million the last 3 years in a row, and I'm really proud of that. And it's all purchase. And I've done it with one teammate. And I also am a millennial and I like life balance. And I'm not willing to like, be a workaholic, but I know I got more to give. And to see what you've done already in 6 months and the way you show up for coaching calls is just phenomenal. And so I really believe you are the future. And so many people are going to be blessed by being in your presence and all the things that you share in our group about branding and social media and sequences and running a team and your scripting around realtors. I mean, holy cow. So, okay. Congratulations, Allison.
Thank you, Shayla.
What do you want to know about me? You want to see?
Okay, I want to dig into your year-over-year numbers because so what sparked this is I screenshotted Shayla, her very sweet husband, Galen, who I am friends with on Facebook, posted their 15th wedding anniversary. He did a post, and one of the things he shared was a Scotsman Guide post from 2017 or 2018, and it was like, you were number 16 in the entire country, needed 467 loans. I was like, Sheila, that is like no one did that many loans then. Like people did that in 2021, but no one did that then. I just don't even think people know that part of what you've built. People just think you're really motivational and good at mindset. So I'm like, I want to dig into how the heck you built that in that market. And so can you show your year over year volume?
You know what
And so
Galen had posted? He had actually posted our friend anniversary on Facebook, and it
I
showed
noticed
like
it was on your actual anniversary, so you must have not friended each other until that's how like long when you've been married that long, I think, that maybe you weren't Facebook friends until you got married.
yes, until we got married. And then we're like, okay, we're now friends. So I just built this report in Salesforce this weekend and it was really fun to see. So I've been at Gill Mortgage almost 15 years. My team has closed 6,288 transactions for 1.6.8 billion, however you say that.
That's hold on, can we pause on that for a second? 1.68 billion. Like that is an insane amount of volume. That is entire companies sometimes can't do that much volume. And you've done that with just your team and your offices.
Yeah. And so when I came to Guild, by the way, I had no coaching, I had no team, I had no processor. I was 100% a rugged individualist. I was working 10, 12 hours a day. I never went away from my phone. I didn't trust people. I even went to the title company and signed my own loan documents because I didn't think the escrow officer was as good as I was. So
And how old were you when you started at Guild?
I was 28.
Okay.
I was 28. I just gotten married. Up into this point, I'd worked for just douchebags. I was never in an environment with people I trusted or respected, but I loved the business. And I loved that it stretched me from an analytical way, like the technical side, and an emotional way, and then the sales and competitive side of me. I loved the business, but I was really disillusioned by the people. And I had been number one at Flagstar Bank before joining Guild in 2009. I'd done like $40 million in business that year. Granted, a lot of it was FHA streamlines and I was getting bank fed leads. Okay. And so I was working like in 15 different states and 3 time zones and, but the world had kind of fallen apart and I was just happy to do any loans that I could. And then Flagstar ended up closing our branch locally and I was number one in the company. And so it was just an opportunity for me to reinvent myself completely. My parents had gotten divorced. They were both kind of, workaholics. And I was like, I'm freshly married and I've worked with douchebags and I'm working bazillion hours. Like I've got to do this differently. And so,
and at that point, do you feel like you were at a breaking point or do you just feel like you knew you needed something different at that phase?
I probably wouldn't have changed unless it changed for me. Like them pushing me out to the curb because I was still in such fear scarcity mode. I mean, I was literally like, where am I going to get my next deal? I was talking about anybody, anywhere. My office had files everywhere. I was writing on napkins. I mean, Allison, if you saw my world at the time, you would have been like, not attractive. She is not who I want to be when I grow up. So it just happened for me. And I think the universe has a way of bringing people into your world and making situations happen. And I think it was divine timing for me. So in 2010, now I want to go back to the month over month report. And I'm not going to find it really quick, but you'll see, and you saw it in preparation for this call. Like the first month I closed 2 loans and the next month I closed 4 loans and then I closed 7 loans. And then it was on and on. I bet you.
And then it kind of balanced out. I feel like it was like 7 to 13 loans a month. And then when you started at Guild, and then you have your first daughter, and you all of a sudden you can see like literally when you were showing me the reports, I'm like, that's wild. You come back from having a baby and you're like, yeah, screw it. I'm going to double my business.
Yes. So this report sums it up for the year, but it is kind of cool to look in those early months because I started, at the very end of 2009. I was going through a short sale on my personal property. I mean, seriously, I had nothing going on. I also, started getting coached at this time. I started listening to course CDs. I was listening to loan officers on CD, thinking about systems and processes and teammates. I was like, what do you mean a system or process? Like the only thing I knew how to do was work my ass off and make my promises. If I said I'll call you back, I'll call you back. If I said I'll text you, I'll text you. Some of my earliest YouTube videos, if you go way back, are like from my website. And it was like, my name is Shayla. And if I tell you I'm going to do something, I will do it. If I tell you I'll call you, I'll do it. I always answer my phone. Like this was my pitch. And it got me a lot of loans because I really took time to put good loans together and ask underwriting and learn from every underwriting condition. And, I was never going to throw a noodle against the wall and pray that the loan would work out. I'm nerdy enough that I'm like, look, reputation is everything. I'm not going to make a promise that I can't come through on. And so those first 6 years, it was just the grind of learning the business. But I also love doing volume. I'm like, if I'm going to work 8 hours a day and I could do 4 loans a month versus doing 20 loans a month, why wouldn't I help 20 clients? And those 20 clients know 20 clients who refer you 20 more clients. And so I never have thought about people with a dollar sign on their forehead. I've never thought about the commission I'm going to make from a loan. I've always just thought about how many families can I help? Because I know if I do a really good job for you and you tell 2 people and those 2 people tell 2 people, like the brick wall will just build. And that's what happened. So fast
And
forward.
then you find coaching.
I find coaching in 2010 and I go to my first conference in May. I hire my first assistant in May of 2010, and that's Lynette Bonnet. And then we get to work. And Lynette was an escrow officer, my favorite escrow officer, a badass, like always top 3. And the first day she started, she hit the desk and said, Shayla, we need to do 20 loans a month, because I'd hired her for like $14 an hour and $200 a loan bonus. And I was like, okay, because I respected Lynette and I wanted her success as much, if not more than my own success, I just went out and I grinded for it. And when we got going on it, so this is the 2010, we did 145 loans. So we averaged about 12 a month, but it started out 2, then went to 4, then went to 5, then went to 4, and then went to 8. And then the next year is the year I had my baby, Gemma. This is my first daughter. I started with Josh Sigmund as my coach that year. And so that started in January of 2011. I had like 2 coaching calls and then I popped out a baby, and the next 4, 5, 6 calls, I was on the couch nursing. And he's like, so are you going to go back out there? Like, how do I coach you? But that second half of the year, man, I really caught on fire. And I remember a key moment because he was like, we did these semi-annual goal setting sessions. And the first half of the year, I think I closed like 78 loans. And he's like, okay, how many do you want to close the second half of the year? And I said 150. And he's like, wait, what? No, just second half. And I'm like, no, second half, I want to close another 150. And he was like, why don't we just like make it like close another 80? Like you just closed 78. What if we set it for like 80 or 90? And he was trying to help me be realistic. He'd just coached me for the first 6 months. We barely knew each other. And I was nursing a baby and working on the couch for a couple months. But him saying I couldn't do it pissed me off enough. And I knew I had the momentum that we went for it. And if you do the math, 228 minus 78, I did 150 freaking loans in the second half of the year. And so that was a really, really fun moment.
And then so you come back from having a baby, which is exhausting and tiring, and you feel like a crazy person just in general, right?
Yep.
And what is the thing that you implement, or what is the thing you go do, or what is your go-to strategy at that point to find 150 loans?
Well, that year there were some refinance opportunities. So I'm really good at refis, especially streamlines. And so I hunted for those. Previously to coming to Guild, I went out and knocked on doors. I went door to door in new home communities where they did a lot of FHA loans, and I did a ton of streamline business. So I got that opportunity in 2011. And then also, the thing that I did right away when I started getting coached was I did leveraged events. I'd never done them before. I'd also never really taken a realtor to coffee ever. I was like, what do you mean I'm going to go out in the market? Like I make money at my desk. I'm putting
You're like,
together
I just
loan
did a video and it says I always answer my phone. I can't go to a coffee
I
meeting.
can't go to a coffee. The other thing is I had no processor. So like literally I would call the 1-800 number at Flagstar and be on hold all day long because I was calling them to clear my underwriting conditions. They would have like an underwriter on call and I'd be like, look, condition number 7, 8, 9 are all uploaded. Can you please, I'll wait on hold. Can you please clear them? And like, that's how I shove my loans through the system. And on the other hand, I was like taking a loan out from somebody. And I swear to you, I had neck problems because I had like both hands to my neck. Um, so I didn't know about leverage. I didn't make videos. I wasn't on social media. I didn't do any of that stuff. So if, when I first did an account pyramid, and the account pyramid is basically like, look, if you want to have a business that's relational, it means that you have people that refer you over and over and over again. And I looked at my year before coming to Guild. I had done a bunch of transactions because I was doing all those streamlines and everything else, but I only had 6 realtors that referred me over and over again out of like 200 closed loans. And so I was like, oh, well, this is a major hole. And I never like really went out networking to realtors. Like up until this point, I'd gotten business from my BNI group. I got business from friends and family. I got business from door knocking. I went on the news and I talked about streamlines and I got business from the news. So when I started getting coached, January of 2011, I remember was my very first lunch and learn. And the reason I know it was my first lunch and learn because it was on 1/11/11. And I have the broker had me do it to his team. I was probably like 12 realtors at a conference table. And I was super pregnant. I had my baby 11 days later. So, when you're super pregnant, Al, you laugh and your belly jumps up and down and like
And you're like always
yeah.
like I am right now, just constantly sweating.
Yeah. And I was wearing a sweater dress. So it was like tight over the belly. So I watched the recording for like 2 minutes and my belly's just moving up and down. So I was like, what am I going to teach a realtor? I didn't realize that they didn't have coaching. And now I'd been to 2 coaching conferences. I'd started learning about tracking my leads. I started thinking about having referral sources. So the minute I started getting coached, I was like, oh, I could just teach this to someone else. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert. In fact, I just started doing it myself, but I'm already noticing the change in my results. I'm noticing the change in my attitude. I'm noticing like good things are happening because I track my leads. And I think that was my first lunch and learn is just teaching people how to track their leads. So like simply you could take the Win by Noon planner and go teach this as like a business course to realtors. Yeah. So I did that. And then
you've implemented at this point a lead tracker.
I had done the accounts pyramid and I'd done a lead tracker.
Okay.
And I started getting so excited about leads because I actually looked at them. Like before, I had no idea if one week I had 15 leads or 2 leads. I don't know. I was just busy all the time and business came or didn't come. That was my previous world. So once I started tracking, then I was like, oh, even if it was a 500 FICO score, I was like, yes, got another one for the lead tracker. And I got into it. I'm competitive and excited. So I then implemented a lunch and learn once a month. And then I also implemented a happy hour, probably once Gemma was like 6 months old. And then I just did that every 2 weeks, lunch and learn on the first Thursday, happy hour on the third Thursday, or what have you. And I'm a high D personality. I never understood why realtors would want to go hang out with their competitors and have a glass of wine. Like to me, I would never do that. I'm also an introvert. So I don't have time for that stuff. But realtors are actually very social. Most of them are extroverts and they need to know each other and befriend each other in order to get deals done. And they wanted to spend time with me. Like they thought it was kind of fun or high energy or I had stuff to share or whatever. So that's how I started building the pyramid is like, okay, now I'm going to actually go out and have a coffee with somebody and learn about their business and what do they need and what do they like about other LOs? What do they hate? How could I maybe help them?
And do you think when you're inviting with the leveraged events, do you think it's one, they get face-to-face time with you, but do you think half of it was just that you had a reason to actually call them?
Oh, yeah. Having a reason to call them, like my background is from network marketing. And so network marketing is where you pitch this pyramid deal and I was selling like vitamins and weight loss products. So the way my life looked before mortgage was I would rip a page out of the white pages of the newspaper, the phone book. And I was like, today I'm calling the Joneses. And I just start calling, hey, is this Michelle? Oh, blah. And I'd have a script to say, I understand that you might be keeping your career options open. Is that true? And she'd like, how do you know my name? Or where'd you get my number? I'm like, oh, I've got several sources. Your name just came across my desk. So are you keeping your options open? Because we're looking. So I made, and the goal was to get them talking and to book an appointment. And then if I got the appointment, then I gave them a presentation. And then from the presentation, I would try to get them to another appointment, to an event. And then from the event, I'd try to get them to sign up and buy some products, right? Realtors are the same thing. And that's just what I realized was like, okay, I've got to have that initial call and book at a meeting and build a one-on-one connection and understand who they are and what they like and what their strengths and all that stuff, and decide if I like them. And then I bring them to an event because it's easy to invite people to things. And then
they see that other people like you and that you're normal. And then it builds, right? It builds just like the bandwagon effect of like, well, if so-and-so likes her and refers her and I like so-and-so, or I want my business to be like theirs, I should maybe refer her too.
Yeah. And I was never an intention. I didn't realize that I was actually now building a network and I was building authority and credibility. I didn't have all that on my head. All I had on my head was I need to meet more people and I need to find out who's going to like me and work with me and who's driven and can move up this pyramid. Because when I met Josh Sigmund, he made $1 million a year and he told me, Shayla, I have 15 accounts. I have 15 people that refer me 4 times a year. And in order to get 15 that hit that metric, I probably have 50 that said they will refer me or that like me and will refer me here and there, or 1 or 2 or whatever the case is. So I was like, okay, I now have a plan I believe in. I have somebody who's done it before me, so I'm not going to question it. And I'm just going to do what he did. And that's what I did. So, the events started working.
Would you have metrics? You're such a numbers person. It always amazes me when you can build a spreadsheet in 5 seconds, or I mean, most big producers have no idea how to use their computer barely. And I assume that's how you're going to be when I joined. I'm like, no, you can build a spreadsheet in 5 seconds better than it would take me a year to figure that out. Probably. You're very techie on that kind of stuff. Did you have like I have to talk to this many people, I need to meet with this many people a day, and did you have a system for all of those metrics along the way too?
Yeah. So let me just give you some of the metrics. First of all, I think that only 25% of your people that like you, know you, trust you, and say they want to refer you are actually working today for a buyer. So if you're going to get a good majority of your business, and this is where my focus shifted from just any client anywhere to going 80% of my business is going to be realtors. Why? Because they get paid by the same client that I get paid on. Our efforts are completely in alignment. Do I love CPAs, financial advisors? Yes, all of those. However, they're not living and dying and paying their bills based on a buyer buying a house, and a realtor is. So I fell in love with realtors. In fact, I even put it on the wall in my office. It says, we love realtors. Because I hear this all the time with loan officers like, I have to go network with realtors. And I'm like, are you flipping kidding? Do you know how hard it is to be a realtor? Go sit your ass on an open house on a Saturday for 3 hours in a vacant property and have one person come through and realize how hard it is for them to generate a lead. Mm-hmm. And when I started really realizing how hard they work, and also realizing that I could sit in my air conditioned office, I could host a couple events, and I could have 40 of them out there calling in the white pages or knocking on doors or answering sign calls or sitting at open houses, I now understood how I could have leverage. And I could now be a sales leader, just like I was when I was 19 and 20 years old, building my downline. Is that I was then a motivator and an encourager, and come on, we want to go build our lives together. We both want to make money so we could buy that nicer car, or we could, retire our husbands, or we could, buy a house, period, or whatever those things were. And so I just felt like an aligned interest. Now, if somebody was negative, rude, whiny, whatever, like I would eventually work them out. But in the beginning, if you were hungry and you were working, I would work with you because I wanted the loans, I wanted the growth. And once I got good at prospecting, I was no longer a slave to any one client or any one realtor because I trusted in my abilities to be a rainmaker. Before then, I didn't realize that my job is to make it rain and to generate leads. And I have a plan for how many numbers. And so I can go through the numbers with you. But, like if you want to close 5 loans a month, you probably need to have 25 different realtors that refer you because again, only 25% of them are referring you any given time. How many leads do you need to get before you convert I think a 20% conversion rate is good. So you need to have 5 divided by 20 is 25 leads. So if I have 25 referral partners, 5 of which are actually working on buyers, and a couple of them send me a few leads that month because they worked an open house or they're calling their database or they're working cold leads or whatever. Now I've got some stability because I got 25 people out in the field that know, like, and trust me.
Yeah, it's interesting now we have so many tools to check on real estate realtors volume and things like that. I just had my whole team go through. I'm like, okay, so all of these people that you track that you talk to during our sales challenge we've been doing, I want you to go through and add up all of the buy side transactions they've done year to date, every person you've talked to and seen, and tell me if you closed even 80% of their buyers, would you have hit your goals this year just on their business? And there wasn't anyone who came back and said yes. Everyone was like, oh, you're dead on. I can't keep talking to the same people. They don't actually have the business. But what's interesting is sometimes I wonder if that almost pigeonholes us because when you built your business, you couldn't have looked up people's volume. You had to just go there and show up and keep going. And it was just a numbers game. So you weren't
You know
so
what it is?
probably picky on it.
People ask me too, how do I hire a great teammate? Get somebody referred to you. Like, what is your reputation? Are you cool? Are you hungry? Are you hustling? The hard part today is that we have more tools than ever to be connected. But the reality is like a lot of realtors work in a silo. If you said, hey, who are your best 2 or 3 best friend realtors? They used to all go in offices together. They used to like huddle around a water station or have daily meetings and they knew each other. Today, I think that's harder. If you're a new agent, you're maybe getting on Zoom calls with your other agents, but like, when are you really fostering relationships with your peers as a realtor? And so, like, how did I get those lunch and learns early? I went to sales managers and brokers and thought, what do they care about? Well, they care about production of their team, like helping their team be more successful. They care about retention, and then they care about recruiting and growth. Well, if I can come in and teach their team some of this coaching stuff, and I'm like literally saying, hey, I have a coach. This is what I'm learning. I have this planner. This is what I'm using, blah, 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 blah. Then I could help them in their efforts and they could help me fill the room. And then, of course, at every one-on-one coffee, you meet somebody and you're like, God, you are so awesome. I love meeting great people. This is what's so fun about the business. Who are you? Like, who do you hang out in real estate? Who are your besties in real estate? Do they work at your brokerage? Where do they work? Who else is cool? I mean, it's like anything else. If you were in college and you had to go meet new friends, you just start saying, where do you frequent? What are your hobbies? Where do your kids go to school? Who do you know? What are you doing? And that's how
one thing you are great at is you have incredible confidence. And so it's always interesting when you talk about being an introvert because any person who met you would never pin that you're an introvert in a million years. If you're a loan officer who feels like they've been completely beat down in the last few years, they've lost their confidence, they've lost their swagger, they're like embarrassed to show their face in public because they made less than a Starbucks employee did last year who works part-time. Where would you turn right now for a confidence boost or to find that? Or when you weren't doing the business and you're running around like a crazy person, where did you get the confidence to call the sales manager of a real estate office and say, hey, let me be the one to teach you this?
I know exactly what I tell you to do. The problem is you're judging your competition and you are thinking that your competition is that much better than you. So who are you to make the phone calls? Okay. I just coached a mega top producer yesterday for a 20-minute phone call. He's in Catalyst and he's all fired up now. And he's like, okay, I've lost my focus. I've lost my game. I'm back on the game. He went in MMI and started looking up all these agents and seeing their LOs. And he's like, LOs that I used to crush are now crushing me. And I've gotten really defeated today. He's like, you called me on the right day. And I was like, well, here's your problem. You think that those loan officers are doing something so much more fantastic than you, and you're beating up on yourself. What changed for me, Allison, was that when I actually went out there and was brave enough to say, hey, I want to do business together. Could I buy you a cup of coffee and learn about what you're doing and see if we'd be a match? And people are like, sure, of course. Some people say, no, I already work with somebody. Next, sure, next, sure, next. Like, you just have to be brave enough to make that call. Most people are pretty cool. If you get them, they'll meet up with you because you're probably only calling people that you already felt like there would be some sort of a vibe with anyways. If you're 30, you're not calling a 70-year-old and saying, hey, you want to meet up? I mean, you're just not doing it. So anyway, what gave me the confidence was actually those first 20 meetings with realtors. And you have these great 6 questions that you use, and you're so systematic, which is why I know you've had the growth you've had. And by the way, that's what I did, as a coaching student. And that's why you and I are so similar, is that I would hear somebody and say, well, what do you say exactly? What are your questions? How do you do it? And then I would just go flipping do it. I would ask those exact same questions. And the first 20 meetings, what I found out in asking questions like, so tell me your experience with lenders. And it's open-ended. And they would say, oh gosh, they never answer their phone. When something goes wrong, they lie, they hide under their desk. They drop the ball. They'll be 2 weeks late on a closing and I have no idea why. Literally the stuff that people would tell me, I'm like, what?
And they still refer them. They'll keep referring. They'll be like, my clients always complain, but I don't know. Right? Like you just have to, so just getting in front of the people.
And so what happened is I realized after about 20 meetings, the bar is really low. And what I want to say to everybody who's happens to watch this someday, somehow, is that if you're somebody who's leaned in and wants to learn and wants to coach and is attracted to people like Allison and I, we're cut from the same cloth. We are responsible. Not that we don't drop balls here and there, but we're in the game to play the game and win the game. And we are here to make promises and keep promises. And I'm telling you, I was shocked because I thought all loan officers were like me. They did a good job on their pre-approval. They asked the questions. They collected the stuff. They cared about their reputation. They worked hard to protect their realtor's time. They never talked crap about the realtor or threw them under the bus. They closed on time. They communicated when shit was going wrong. To me, that's the minimum bar of entry. Like if you can't do that or won't do that, you're not a professional. You shouldn't be in the industry. Yeah. And so I got my confidence by figuring out what the level of play is out there. And I'll say this in closing, and you might have 3 more questions, but I was talking to somebody yesterday. I did an interview yesterday and he was like, well, I don't do that anymore because I think everyone's doing that now. And I don't do that anymore because everyone's doing that now. And I go, what's funny? I bet everyone thinks everyone's calling realtors on Monday. And I bet everyone thinks everyone does a Tuesday update call. And I bet everyone thinks everyone is doing lunch and learns or happy hours. And you know what that means? Probably no one's doing it because they're all stuck in their flipping heads. And they aren't just going back to where I was and where you start. Like, get out the account pyramid, look at the facts and where you're at, get excited about meeting new friends, get over yourself and go out and meet new friends and ask the questions, do discovery and ask things like, so are loan officers showing up at your office? Are they sending you mail? Are they bringing by cheesy gifts? Are they hosting classes? Are they doing Zooms? Like, what do you see other loan officers doing? Are you being blown up by LOs right now? I mean, find out, because if everybody's dropping off donuts, don't be the donut person. Stand out and do something different. If everyone's doing, Zooms and everyone's burned out as hell on Zooms, do some in-person stuff. Right. It's not that hard, but
It's always funny. People think, well, one, people think cold calls don't work anymore. Here I am at Guild Mortgage, so clearly they worked. Sheila cold called me. So there you go.
there we go.
One. And then two, everyone thinks these realtors get bombarded. I literally sometimes I do get lazy with my prospecting because we're all busy and whatever. And I just email every single person that we closed a transaction with last month, a little like Google review I do of them if I enjoyed working with them. And I email it to them and I ask them for coffee. My close rate on that email is like 50% will meet with me for coffee. It's not, I don't even have to call them. And when I go meet with them, usually they're like, I haven't met with a lender in years. I don't even know. And they haven't met with a lender in years because no one calls them and asks them to coffee. That's the reality. Okay, so couple closing things. You're a mom, you've got 2 girls at home, you've got a husband, you are a normal person who likes to live their life, and 500 some loans a year consistently is no small feat. Were you working like a crazy person? Did you have the balance? What were your non-negotiables? What did that look like for you?
Let's just go back to the numbers and I'll try to remember. So I had Gemma in 2011 when I closed 228. Largely that was probably just me. And Lynette maybe hired my second assistant here, I think in 2012. So we went from 228 up to 513 loans. So that was a huge growth year. I think I hired 2 or 3 assistants that year. I hired my first 1 or 2 LOs. Because one thing that we didn't talk about is in addition to just me being an originator running a team is that starting in like 2012, I started slowly adding loan officers, either because I hired brand new people as my assistant and I grew them over 2 years and then they became an LO. I've done that probably, I don't know, 8 to 12 times, like Amanda Ray and Seamus and Jen and
Who are, by
Jeff
the way,
and
all top
Rebecca.
producers now, which is
Yeah.
so cool. That's life changing to take someone from a 40K probably year employee to making $1 million a year. That's so cool.
It's the coolest. I mean, and to have Lynette, my assistant, start with me and $14 an hour and say, Shay, I need to retire. And we got her net worth up and she got to the point where she had enough money in the bank to retire. My assistant, my team captain, and you can fast forward down here. You know, we did 500 deals, 469. In the years of COVID, I moved to Spain in 2020. So yeah, did I hit burnout? Absolutely. I'm very regimented on my calendar. I don't know if you can see this. If I click over, can you see this?
Yeah.
So this is August.
I'm blown away that you were able to find this.
Yeah, I have a Google Calendar. I used to be in Gmail. And so I just went back 10 years. This is what my calendar looked like in August. So you can just see like I have power hours on here and office meetings. And then all these like purples and blues are pre-approval meetings. And look, I've got a fundraiser. I've got, I don't know. I've so much stuff in here.
You've got yourself leaving the office on a Friday, probably pick up kids from school or from some daycare or nanny or whatever. And you've got time with Gemma on Friday morning. So you're still a functioning human who gets to be a wife and a mom and enjoy life and didn't need to. You've got pump and email on
pump and email. See, I was pumping. Yeah. Cause Gwen was only 6 months old here, email and pump. I love that you saw that.
that's what's real about this.
By the way, I was building a house in 2014. 2014 was a really hard year. I just had my second newborn, going from 1 baby to 2 babies, so you'll soon find out, even though you have stepkids, it's 4 times the amount. Not only that, but the market dropped. So like in 2014, we went backwards. We went from 472 to 370 loans. So we lost 100 loans that year. And so I was pushing and grinding. And then I had some family stuff happen. I had some people go to rehab and my stepsister lost her kids. And I mean, it was a heavy year. And so emotionally, but I mean, look at this, how many pre-approvals I'm doing. If you're going to do 500 deals a year, you're doing, 3, 4, or 5 pre-approvals a day. And then I built a team. Oh, and then I started becoming a core coach. So I did that back in like 2013. I was also on the board at the Builders Association. I also coached realtors, and then I started coaching my loan officers. So look, this is when I started a coaching program at Guild Mortgage in 2014. So I was core coaching. So on a Thursday, I was on my call, I was doing a core call, and then I coached 2 groups of guild managers. How cool that I just found this. So, I mean, yeah, I was
You're showing up at 8 a.m. and you're just showing up big, back to back, all day long, working for yourself 40 to 45 hours a week, just like a W-2 employee would go work for their manager and show up big for them 8 hours a day.
Yep. I mean, and listen, I've had to learn how to delegate. I've had to learn to incentivize my people well and grow them so that they help me with weekend on call. I had to learn how to build a team and be okay with having other people meet with my clients or do a co-meeting with me. I mean, there's a lot of areas of growth. And if you just go here, like by 2020, like I said, I moved to Spain. We put all the loans in Lynette's name. So for the next 3 years, 2020, 21, and 22, we originated in Lynette's name because I was living out of the country. She closed 540.
790 loans.
Yeah, that was COVID. But I mean,
But that's still insane.
That's what happens when you stay at the same place and you have servicing, guild plug there. And our team is just freaking dialed in, right? Like I built all these years of customers of taking care of people. When refi time happened, baby, we took advantage of it. Even in 2019, when rates dipped a little bit, we had 1 month where we closed 80 loans in August of 2019.
It's amazing.
So super fun. Now, and look, my team now is I originate in 3 different LOs names. I have Katie, Chris, and Brent active right now. Katie's my sister. She's been on my team for 7 or 8 years. Chris has started as a LP2. He's been with me 7 or 8 years. Brent's now been with me only a year and a half, or a year and 3 months. Andrea was an LP2 and a processor who originated for a little while. Now she went back to processing. Lynette's retired. So, people come and go and you go through different versions of your team. This year, I wanted to set out to do 100 million. And it's so cool we're doing this call because here it is in September and we've just hit what we did last year. So we're going to get 4 months, bonus months. And I think that we can hit $100 million on the Gifford team again, which is super fun. And, on my personal team, I only work in my team about 2 hours a week. And it's all through empowerment of my team. And maybe 2.5 hours is right by the time I make videos to my database and I show up on a builder call and I'm, calling some of our top VIP partners. But the point I think is that it's all an evolution and it hasn't always been pretty. Allison, the consistent theme is I've busted my ass and I've always wanted to figure out how to break through that next frustration level. I remember somebody saying that you're always going to have a struggle in business, always. If you see any business from the outside, whether it's a top agent or any business, and you think they've got all their stuff figured out, you couldn't be more wrong. In fact, the more you grow, the more you realize how much you don't have figured out. And so you're either having a sales struggle with not enough leads, not the right type of leads, a lead conversion problem, or you're having an operational struggle, which means you don't have enough operational capacity. Maybe your processing and operations is broken, or maybe you just don't have checklists or processes or follow-ups. So you're dropping the ball because now you've increased your sales and now you've lost capacity. Or you're having a financial struggle. You've just made an investment to hire that second person, or you've just made an investment on your branding and your social or your marketing or whatever. And now you have a financial problem so there's always a struggle. But for me, I try to always struggle forward. Like I hit a struggle, find a coach or mentor and say, I'm hitting the struggle. How do I blow through it? And I'm asking people who have already done it, not just anyone trying to get things anywhere. I'm going, okay, Allison, you just closed $11 million worth of volume. You built that up in 4 months. I want to know what you did. Well, show me your calendar. What did you say? How many realtors do you have? How many calls did you make? What are you doing? And then now I just go, okay, I got the recipe, go do it. And you keep evolving and your leadership grows and your skills in every meeting gets easier and better. And the thing is, you just can't get mental about it. You got to keep the goal, the main thing, and hit those bumps and rejection along the way and just keep finding a way to lean in.
Okay. So in closing, we all know loan officers who feel stuck and you kind of just like want to shake them and say, "Oh, just go do this," and it'll all come to fruition for you. If you had to look at someone right now and give them one piece of advice to close out to have a great start to 2025, what would be the one thing you would tell someone? Just go do this and it'll all work.
Well, go get 50 names of real estate agents, however you find them. I don't care. And call them 3 times before you give up. Don't leave a message the first time. Call every one of your listing agents, just get 50 names and go have 20 meetings. And even in those meetings, just do discovery. Ask what other LOs are doing and what they like and what they don't like and where they're getting their business from. And do they track things and do they know their conversion and what are their goals? Just be curious because you will find your people. And I don't care what your personality is. I don't care what your strengths are. I don't care what your experience is. The reality is that there's an abundant amount of opportunity out there. We just get stuck in our head and we don't take action, which then further puts us into the weeds and we get stuck. So I would just pretend to start fresh and believe that there's an amazing, opportunity right now, just like there was in 2010, 11. You just got to go out and do it.
That's awesome. Shayla, thank you for doing this. You're literally the Michael Jordan of mortgages. So it is just fun and an honor to get to look back at your numbers and to watch you relive it and talk about how you built it. I know we all have so much we can learn from you just from your mindset and everything else. I think even what you just said about the main thing is the main thing, everything else doesn't have to get in the way of it, is such a good reminder that we can all take with us through the rest of the year and just focus on the goal.
Okay, I have one other thing that is cool to
Yeah.
say. And I want to see if the report will upload because I'm going to remove the filter. But the coolest thing for me about getting good at this is that I have the before Shayla and the after Shayla. And
Mhm.
I want to help people shortcut. Like what took me 8 years to figure out, I want to help people shortcut that to 3 years. I want to say, this is what you say, this is how you do it, this is where you're going. And it's the reason I'm so driven to do Catalyst and have, a personal growth and productivity type of a coaching program that I have. It's why I have this free Facebook group. It's the reason I send out sales scripting every week is like, I literally, the minute I learn something, I want to teach it. And I feel so blessed in my life for what's happened. I'm a college dropout at Reno and there's nothing better in seeing people like you, Allison, have this growth when you've been stuck at 50 million. And
you texted me, you're like, what is it attributed to? I'm like, literally, I just have someone helping me be consistent and show up with focus on the goal. How many loans do you need to close next month? How many pre-approvals did you do? Every single week on Mondays, we get on a call and we go through the numbers and it's plain as day. I didn't have enough pre-approvals, so I might not hit my goal next month. I better step it up. And you're surrounded by people who are just doing it the same way. It just becomes easy. Now I'm like, my goal of 70 million this year, I'm like, dang, I need to think of a way bigger goal for next year because now I have all this support and this help and this motivation just to a different level that it seems way more doable than it ever did before.
yeah, it's just remarkable. Okay, so this is what I want to say is because I had that breakthrough story. It's really about building your story. There's so many people that ask me as now a manager or a leader or a sales manager, how do I grow my team? What if I want to mentor, influence, coach, build a branch? I'm like, you got to have a story. Go build your story. That could be a 90-day story. It could be a 1-year story. But because I have this story, and I think people are like, okay, if she can do it, I can do it. I've been building at Guild for, 15 years. Look at this. My team has closed 35,000 loans for 9.9 billion at Guild Mortgage since I've been here for 15 years. So my greatest accomplishments are not my personal team's volume. It is helping people like Amanda Ray, who's been here. She was my LP1, started at $15 an hour, you guys. She's closed 674 million at Guild over the last, 10 years of originating. And I can fast forward. I just interviewed Jorge yesterday. Look at Danelle was with me for 4 years, had this great growth run, and then decided she wanted to go somewhere else. But she closed 313 million with me. Let's see. There's Emma at 75 million. Let's keep on going. Here's Jorge, who's been here even longer than me. He's over 900 million at Guild, 3,700 loans. And look at his growth, 188, 200, 285, 323, 343. So we were doing it side by side with each other, which has just been amazing. Katie Rice and Truckee, she's closed over 500 million with me. Started at 71, 150, 174. I mean, it's just, that is my greatest joy. One year I helped 15 of our LOs make it to President's Club. It like, look at this. Morgan's up in a tiny little town in Elko. She's closed over 100 million in the 6 years or so she's been with me. I don't know.
Well, when I was
just keep
sitting,
going and going.
it was Christmas Eve, or we were hosting Christmas for my husband's side of the family, and that's when I was thinking about making a move. And my husband's like, I'm so sick of talking about this with you. Can you just make up your mind? And I'm like, I guess my head just keeps going to the fact that Shayla has taught other people to do what I'm trying to achieve and has success doing it herself, but has taught it to so many people. And I can see I can see all of these people who work for you. And I was like looking them up on Redder and MMI and going, this girl was her LP1. And she's done 100 million in volume. I've never had 100 million in volume. And if she can teach those people, and I think I'm pretty capable of doing this all on my own, but if she could help teach me, think of how much faster I would get there. And with someone paving the way so I don't have to do all the stupid things in between. And he was like, okay, well then, yeah, just go do it. Here I am.
I'm so happy that you trusted me and we're building, because now you've hired 6 loan officers year to date and you're now growing bigger than your team. And listen, it's good to be around people who've done big things, because also sometimes you need to just go, am I normal? Because I have this petty thing and it's pissing me off. And like you and I share voice notes and I'm like, yeah, that's totally normal. And here's how I reframe it. Also, like losing people. I'm looking at Brian Cushing, worked with me for 11 years. He closed $480 million of volume with me and had this amazing run and then left me. Trish left me after 400 million. It's crushing, but it's also part of leadership and it's part of running a business. And so anyway, I'm so jacked on this report that because of you asking me to this interview, I have this report. It's bringing like my whole career to fruition, which is cool because it's been 20 years as of June. And at 43, I'm still so in love with what we're doing. And if, just to be very direct with people, Alice and I do want to grow and we do want to align with other people who want to have these kind of successes and growth and energy and a plan and accountability and all that stuff. And we are really, really picky on who we work with, but what we're picky about is your character, is being driven, is being coachable, is being open-minded, is being somebody that's just willing to work hard and be courageous. I never look at somebody and go, oh, you only closed 20 loans this year. You're not my cup of tea. I want that person that's got the stars in their eyes and is like, please, I've just been dying to have leadership and a plan and hold me accountable. I will take that person all day because I want them to be my next story. That like, there's nothing more joyful than to help people do it. So hit us up, DM us,
yeah.
and that we might as well close. Always be closing, Allison.
Thank you, Shayla.
All right. Thanks for the time. See you later.